To synthesize the constant truths of history became Joseph Campbell's burning point of his life. He wanted to bridge the abyss between science and religion, mind and body, East and West, with the timeless linkage of myths. He was absolutely obsessed with mythology, and his life demonstrates that exactly. This is a book review and summary of The Hero's Journey, Joseph Campbell, on his life and work. Joseph Campbell found himself obsessed with mythology at a very young age, and he spent his young years pretty much in a cabin reading and writing 8 hours a day until he became a professor at the Sarah Lawrence College, where it was all girls, and he had to lecture to girls. And when he first started lecturing, he found that he wasn't really connecting and relating to these girls. So he had conversation with the girls, and he found out a bit more about them, and he started to relate his mythology that he'd been reading, and he started to teach it and speak it in terms of what their lives were, what was going in their life. He made it relatable to them, and he found that was a very efficient way of communicating, and he started engaging the students, and he started to love mythology even more and more. And he came to the realization that we are all living our own myth. Myths are anything from a story with a big problem, that intro, problem, resolutions, sort of story arc, but they could be so much more. They could be just kind of things to think about and to ponder over. And I think learning about mythology and reading Joseph Campbell's work on how inspired he was by mythology really sinks into you and really broadens your mind to, how all these old myths, no matter how different they might be to us, they all have a meaning and a significance that we can apply to our own lives. And it's almost like reading into a story and looking into a piece of artwork or poetry that we can then kind of relate to ourselves and figure out, oh, okay, that hero in that story had this problem going on, and then I need to be the hero. That hero stepped up and he won. So stories are really one of humans' oldest traditions. I think if you want to connect with anyone, if you want to learn something, remember something, it comes through a story. We didn't have the internet or tablets or fucking books and pens and shit. So it was all word of mouth and, sitting around the campfire telling a story about how a bear almost attacked me, and how, stories have an evolutionary biological reason to really get into our brain and of significance to us. So what I love most about this book is it's more of a conversation with Joseph Campbell. They did take out, it's like a biography really, and they took out some interviews of him when he was on TV. They talk about the people that he used to hang out with, the things that he researched, some of his favorite stories, some different questions that they asked him. One of my favorite quotes from the book in the introduction, really, on the 22 of the introduction, he asked the question, are you going to go on the creative soul's quest, or are you going to pursue the life that only gives you security? Are you going to follow the star of the zeal of your own enthusiasm? Are you going to live the myth, or is the myth going to live you? And it's really this call to action, and that is the hero's journey. As we started this journey, we don't know who we are, and there's something intrinsic inside of all of us that's calling to us and saying, who are we? And you get an inkling, a kind of hints along the way, and these emotions that kind of direct you towards it, and these life experiences that push you and pull you towards a certain mission or a purpose or a challenge. And that's the call to action. So we're born, and then the hero is called to action. Now, do you accept the life of instability and challenge and stress? Do you welcome it? Do you move towards it? Or do you sit in your cave and hope for security and safety? Now, Joseph talks about the people who, if you don't take that call to action, the stress and the pressure and the fear is going to come right to you. If you sit in your little cave of security and safety for your whole life, it's going to come towards you, and you're going to end up in the same situation with the same stresses, the same challenges as someone if they had just gone out and done it. So it's really about facing your fears and being the hero, not only to others, but to yourself, so that you can look in the mirror and love yourself and be grateful for yourself and not get to the end of your life and die with regrets. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. When you have the unmistakable experience of the aha, then you'll know you're riding on the mystery. I call this the gratitude or the inspiration tier as well. It's you just know in your heart, in your soul, that you are on the right track. And there's nothing more fulfilling than having a vision, setting yourself a goal, and allowing yourself to ride that journey and go along with it and have the courage to face those fears, because Carl Jung talks a lot about this. In the filth it is found. It is in our biggest fears that our soul is forged and turns into a beautiful, shining ray of light that irradiates out from within us and guides the world along their own path. We're not being a leader to others. We're helping lead ourselves, which inspires others to lead themselves as well. So let's look through the book here. I love this book. I think I read it in like a day. I just sat outside. It was a nice day, and I just got a little tan and kept reading and reading and reading. And Jung, talking of Carl Jung, and Jung asked himself by what mythology he was living, and he found he didn't know. And so he said, I made it the task of my life to find by what mythology I was living. So it's like, figure out what mystery am I living? What challenges am I going through? Who can I relate to? Joseph absolutely loved reading, and this inspired my book series because he had a clear structure about his day, where he would do 2-hour reading sessions, and then he would do a break, and then he would do a 2-hour reading session and a break, and then a 2-hour reading session, and he would just like read fucking all day. He didn't have any money to buy the books, so he went to the library and he said, hey, is it possible I could like pay these off in a couple of years when I start making money? And they liked him, so like, yeah, hell yeah, have the books, man. And then so Joseph Campbell got a loan for the books that he was going to read. And it just shows you, when you're dedicating yourself to your mission, to a challenge, you're on the journey, and people will feel that and feel that energy, and your vision will inspire them, and it will help you along the way. So I would say, out of his other books, this one was my favorite. The Hero with 1,000 Faces, which is the book I'm going to do next, is a bit more complex with bigger words and difficult stories to sort of understand and interpret. Whereas this one's very conversational, and it's more about Joseph Campbell himself. I'm really interested in the authors and the psychology and what drives them and what's their purpose and why are they so dedicated and disciplined to want to share this and write and all this sort of thing. Another favorite quote of the book is, a spiritual healer or influencer, someone big in the spirituality and meditation, asked him, hey, Joe, what do you do do you meditate? What do you do to relax and meditate? And Joseph Campbell says, I underline sentences, which I thought was great. He underlined sentences. Here's another quote from one of his books. If you're going to describe a person as an artist, you must describe the person with ruthless objectivity. It is the imperfections that identify them. It is the imperfections that ask for our love. So this is the hero. The hero is not perfect in the traditional sense where there's nothing wrong with them. The hero certainly has a weakness and enemies and kryptonites and vices and things that they can improve on. But that's what makes them relatable. That's what makes them so inspiring, is because, wow, we can see that hero over there and they're just human, but they're still going through it no matter what. You know, we all go through our own adversities. We all have our own fears. You know, think of Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. Think of Frodo in The Hobbit, and Frodo and Bilbo in The Hobbit, and they go through these journeys, and they're not the courage that they have from within themselves is stronger than the fears that they're facing. They still feel the fear, they still have worries and anxieties and stresses, but they do it anyway. And this book is a clear representation of Joseph Campbell, how, you know, he just wanted to read about mythology and he became an inspirational leader in the field, and he just focused on what he loved. That was his call to action. That was the message that he wanted to share. He wanted to do tons on mythology. He pursued it, and he's the man, Joseph Campbell. So that is The Hero's Journey, one of my favorite books. Pick it up if you love reading. He will inspire you to read more. Pick it up if you love mythology. Pick it up if you're going to read some of his other books, or if you just love books, pick it up. And thank you for watching. Subscribe.